Every lowly down in Lowlyville liked Christmas a lot. But Merrick, who lived in the floor, did not. That Merrick hated Christmas the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be that his hair wasn't spiked up quite right. It could be, perhaps, he lost a duel on that night. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his absence of snog, he sat there on Christmas Eve, chugging his eggnog. Watching from a secret camera he placed up in town at the warm lighted windows on the girls in nightgowns. For he knew every lowly in Lowlyville above was busy now wishing good cheer and some love.
And they're hanging their stockings.
He snarled with a sneer.
Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here.
Then he growled as the Mario brothers were plumbing.
I must find a way to keep Christmas from coming.
For tomorrow, he knew, all the lowly girls, and I think a few boys, would wake up bright and early. They'd rush to their toys. And then, oh the noise, noise, noise. That's one thing he hated.
The noise, 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 noise!
Then the lowlies, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast! They would eat lowly pudding and rare lowly roast beast, which was something that Merrick couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every lowly in Lowlyville, the tall and the small, would stand close together. With Christmas bells ringing, they'd stand hand in hand, and the lowlies would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd
sing, 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 sing!
And the more Merrick thought of the time they would sing, the more Merrick thought,
I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 2,000 years I've put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how?
Then he got an idea, an awful idea. That Merrick got a wonderful, awful idea.
I know just what to do.
Merrick laughed in his throat.
What a great evil trick.
And he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked.
With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer.
Merrick looked around, but since this weren't the North Pole, there was none to be found. Did that stop old Merrick, I fear? No. Merrick simply said,
If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead.
So he called Hobson in. Then he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn to the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh.
Don't forget, Hobson,
he asked. Then he said,
Giddy up!
Hobson, fast as a hare, he ran down the highway past old Pedo Bear. All the windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the lowlies were dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first house in the square,
This is stop number 1.
old Merrick Claus hissed. And he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, he got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the lowly girls' stockings all hang in a row.
These stockings
He grinned.
are the first thing to go.
Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room and took every present. Wands and chainsaws, computers and swords, cell phones, panties, printies and drums. And he stuffed them in his bags. Then Merrick very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the whole feast. He took the lowly pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, Merrick even took the rabbit from Pawnee Pony Dash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee.
And now,
Irked Merrick.
I will stuff up the tree.
And Merrick grabbed the tree and he started to shove, when he heard the small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and saw a small girl, little Rizel, who was considered as cute as a pearl. Merrick had been caught by this lowly-like bother, who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at old Merrick and said,
Santa Claus, why are you taking your Christmas tree? Why?
But you know that Merrick wasn't about to be caught, so he hypnotized her with the rod he had brought.
Why, my sweet little tot?
The fake Santa Claus lied.
The needles on this tree have become brittle and dried, so I'm taking it to a real special hot spring, and when you go back to bed, you'll forget this whole thing.
And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head and got her a drink and sent her to bed. And when little Rizel went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the brand new hair dryer. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. In the dresses he left nothing, still the whole season attire. And the one speck of cloth that he left in this story was a hat that was even too small for Midori. Then he did the same thing to the other prime houses, leaving clothes much too small, far as censoring goes. It was 15:15 dawn, all the lowlies still abed, all the lowlies still a-snooze. When he packed up his sled, he packed it up with the presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, the tinsels, the trimmings, the trappings. 300 feet down to the caverns below, he slid to the bottom, far away from the snow.
Pooh-pooh to the lollies!
He was menacingly humming.
They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. And all the lollies that live in Lollyville will all cry boo-hoo! That's a noise
Merrick hitched.
that I simply must hear.
So he paused, and then put one hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound bellowing underground. It started reduced, then it moved to quite loud. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. Couldn't be, but it was merry. Very! He stared at the screen, the light burning his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every lowly down in Lowlyville, the tall and the small, was singing, without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came! Somehow or another, no card game to blame. And Merrick, who was born many eons ago, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags.
It came without packages, boxes, or bags.
And he puzzled for hours, till his puzzler was sore. Then that Merrick thought of something he hadn't before.
Maybe Christmas,
He thought,
doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more.
and what happened then? Well, in Lowlyville they say that Merrick's small heart blew up with his sleigh. The story has ended. It's Christmas Eve night. Perhaps it is snowing, your yard filled with white. The lowlies did have a most joyous of seasons. 'Cause I joined the party. What else would be the reason? And what became of Merrick? Nobody knows. But who really cares? 'Cause we are two sworn foes.